The root cause of all of this is right here, though. It's a lot closer than you think. The black community's biggest threat is the black community. We kill ourselves every day, and we don't do anything about it but point the finger at everybody else because we're too busy idolizing our skin color that it clouds our reality.
Family and fatherhood, an institution that is slowly vanishing from our society, in my view. As we see organizations like BLM and the far left demonize what many of us have held dear for many years, and what our nation and our world, many countries around the world, have held dear for many decades. The ability to bring a life into the world, care for that life, raise that life up to be a contributing member to society is the most important job one could ever have. As well, this thing called the family, in which many are seeking to deconstruct, is the first institution established and founded by the creator of humanity, God. It is, in my opinion, the hardest job, but the most necessary one. In this edition of Changing the Narrative, I talk with JJ Young, known on social media as JJ the Patriot. We talk about fatherhood. We talk about his relationship with his son, his service, of which I'm pretty sure many of you are grateful for, to this great country. And we talk about what it means to move forward. What am I talking about? I'm talking about what it means as Black people, as a country, to move forward. What I asked him outright, what do you think we can do to, in the immediate moment, to alleviate, to solve some of these problems we see in our country and in the Black community? He is from Ohio. He is known, at least by many in the conservative political world, on social media, for his views. I have found out about him that way. His videos, his strong, bold stances for what he believes is right is encouraging, and it's inspiring. His overt love for his family and his pursuit of fatherhood is unmatched in my view. It's refreshing to see. It's refreshing to see that positive image on social media. It's refreshing and it's new in the sense that where we are in society, being there for your child, being there for your family, is not necessarily in the mainstream something that is always celebrated. A prime example of this is Father's Day. We see many on Father's Day demonizing fathers. We get into fatherhood a lot, but we also talk about the violence as mentioned in the Black community. He has some hot takes and a very sober, in my view, sober judgment about the state of the Black community and what can and needs to be done to alleviate some of the carnage caused by the violence and the toxic culture. My conversation with JJ was amazing. One of my favorite thus far. I know you guys will enjoy it on this edition of Changing the Narrative.
You don't become what you want, because so much of wanting is about living in the space of what you don't have.
I believe that we all share this common desire. We all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted. Everything we do in some way considers that fact.
You can't bring life if you don't have a vision. You don't build your character because, letting go of your ego.
Thank you for listening.
I'm here with JJ Young. I was first introduced to him via social media, his videos, his posts, particularly Twitter. He's a bodybuilder. He serves in the National Guard in Ohio. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So as I mentioned, I do this thing. First I say a word, to first thing comes to your mind. We can start there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Freedom,
Liberty,
family,
love,
politics,
infuriating,
unity,
peace,
censorship,
garbage,
religion,
love,
work.
necessary,
Okay. Last one. God.
love.
Well, okay. So tell me more about yourself. What is it that I know? As I mentioned, you serve in the National Guard, bodybuilder. Tell me more about yourself, like the basics about JJ.
Basics. Got a wife and we got a 1.5-year-old son. And that's everything to me. It's crazy. I missed his birth when I was overseas, and I'm still playing catch up. We're trying to build a relationship with him. So that's really been my focus in everything right now. But I grew up in a little country town, and then I moved to a more suburban area when I was in middle school. So I've been exposed to a lot of different walks of life, and that's helped shape me as the person that I am now. Fortunate enough to have both parents in my household while I was growing up. And yeah, man, I serve in the military. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I'm a CO at the sheriff's office for my full-time job. That's also something I love doing. I love interacting with those guys. And a lot of people are like, how can you work with those inmates and all that all day and stuff like that? I love interacting with people is really what it is. I like learning about their life, their experiences, what they've been through and why they're there and what they can do differently to not end up there.
Got you. What has been in that work that you do? What has been like the most distinctive moment? Like why particularly that type of law enforcement work, or really?
Okay, so
rehabilitation, or how would you describe it?
Well, this one time, this is just made me look at things completely differently. This was before I worked at the sheriff's office. I was working at a prison. It's kind of like a halfway house almost when you're done with hard time and you're being reacclimated to society. I had this guy who had just came in to our mod, and he everybody checks your papers. All the inmates do. So they know what you're in there for. And if you don't give it to them, they're going to call their buddy and find out. So this dude molested his sister for years and years and years. And so he came down the night. He avoided conflict and fights and all that for his first night in there. But he came down to me and talked to me at my desk, and he was like, yo, I just want to tell you why I'm in here and all that. And usually I'm just like, look, man, I don't care about why you're in here. I don't look people's charges up. I don't care. I just want you to be a better person. I want to help you, and I want to guide you and do what I can to make your stay smooth as possible. And so then he told me what he was in here for, and I was like, oh, okay. He's just coming right out with it, molesting his sister. And so we start talking, and he told me growing up, his brother would molest him, and that was his dad wasn't in the house. His mom was out doing whatever, and his brother would molest him every single day. And it was his brother also would beat people up for him. His brother would bring him food, take care of him. And that was like normal to him. And that was showing protection. And so I think it was his mom that remarried eventually, and he got a stepsister. And so he started doing the same thing to her. And he described it like, it was so weird how he described it, like it was not even an issue in his mind. And then he's like, I know it's an issue to the world, but to me and how I came up, it's okay. And that's protection. And it just like blew my mind. And it's like, how many more people are out there that think things like this or other things that think that it's okay and acceptable because that's the way they were brought up. And that just like fascinated me. And it's obviously disgusting. It's horrible. It's one of the worst things you can do, in my opinion, but it was just really, really weird to hear about that. And it motivated me to want to speak to other people and try to help change their way of thinking, you know?
Got you. in a broader context, you know, that's very different. It's very powerful.
It's yeah, it's wild.
I never saw that someone that views themselves, someone that is in a sense a protector, but also a perpetrator.
Yeah.
Um, broadening, taking that theme and broadening it, and you know, expanding on it. I guess you could say, or I guess just in the moment, I'm thinking in society there's a lot of that. Maybe not necessarily, you know, you're molesting someone or
Right.
sexually abusing someone, but there's a lot of that in society where people, things, entities are uh, protective and protectors, if you will,
Yeah.
uh, but also perpetrators.
Yeah.
Um, I connected with you via social media and found you because of your politics and things that you have said
Hmm.
concerning politics. It's obvious to anyone that pays attention to you on social media that you are conservative. I don't know if
Hmm.
you identify with a political party or not, but have you always been conservative?
No. I look at my old Facebook posts, you know, the little memories you can look at and look at your old
Yeah.
posts. I look at those, man, and I'm like, what the heck was I smoking back then, man? Because I look at the stuff like with the really what it was like the Mike Brown thing when that came out and all
Okay.
that was going on. I was big liberal right then, and I was all on that side, and I was like, man, these cops are bad, these racist police. I was posting a whole bunch of crazy things on my social media,
Mhm.
and then I started seeing the facts come out about how he reached for the gun, and that's how all that went down. Then I found out that he was robbing the store for cigars, and I was like, what? So he's not this innocent dude that I've been made to believe this entire time. And I
Mhm.
don't think he deserves death or anything like that, but actions have consequences, especially reaching for an officer's gun, you know? So that made me start thinking like maybe what I'm seeing on this TV and maybe what I'm reading other people share and post is not exactly true. So I just started doing more research and found this really aligned with me. And when I started working on my relationship with God, that's really what it was, is because I found more of my Christian foundation and beliefs align with the conservative party.
Mhm. That's interesting that you say that. Personally, for me, I have personally always, I've never been overtly political, and this as I probably am now. um, but growing up, I've always, in my mind, thought, okay, I like this, I'm against this, you know,
Hmm.
and I've never been the type that was, you know, a complete liberal and then became, you know, whatever. I don't have the
Right.
walk away story that many people have. But one thing I do notice, um, for those who were liberal or apolitical or whatever, and now they're extremely, that you know, they're extremely active on the conservative side. What I notice is that there's always some type of connection or breaking point, um, or they always reference God and their relationship with
Hmm.
God as an impetus or starting point for their
Yeah.
conservatism. Um, was there a break? Was there a moment in time or a specific moment where you're like, okay, obviously Mike Brown situation is one instance, but is there like a
Hmm.
moment where you said, okay, I need to not only after doing the research, I not only need to acknowledge that my beliefs are changing and I may have been lied to, but I need to start speaking out about it. Was there a moment when that
Oh, about
clicked for you?
speaking out about it.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty bold and blunt pretty much my whole life, but really
Mhm.
when I was deployed, that really is what set me off and started doing all the stuff that I do now politically. That made me really get more vocal about it. And it was just because I saw how people lived over there, and it was just like it was terrible. And it was like, oh my goodness, you guys really think that you have real problems over here and you hate this country, you spit on it, and it's like you have no idea how good we have it. And I'm not trying to like, weigh someone's problems here, someone's problem there, like it sounds like I'm doing, but
Mhm.
it just made me appreciate what we have so much more. And it made me more aggressive in my tone. And that's something I've been trying to work on because I feel like a lot of times I'm not coming through with a redemptive standpoint. And I think I need to work on that if I want to actually reach people and talk to people. So
Mhm.
that's something I've been trying to work on, is becoming more redemptive in my tone and my speech. But man, I just get so daggone mad, man.
I get it.
Get fired up, man.
I totally get it. If you watch some of my earlier, not like my recent stuff, sometimes you see it, but if you watch like my early stuff when I started using social media to talk about politics or look up old tweets, I was
Yeah.
I was harsh, in the sense that you see the problems, you see how people are being lied to, you see how people, if you just take, I work in media, I'm a journalist, I have a degree in journalism, all of that, and you
Mhm.
see, and I've sat in these journalism schools, and you see how they condition people to lie,
Ooh,
in
yeah.
the name of activism, in the name of whatever, right? And people just believe it. They just go for it, and you get angry about it, and then you try to express, "This is what I'm seeing. These are the facts
Right.
behind it, whatever, whatever." And it just comes out in a very aggressive way sometimes. So I totally get it. You talked about being deployed. What is that like? I have a couple friends rather, and family, and some in the military, active duty, and others,
Mhm.
National Guard, like yourself. What is that like for you? What is it like? Traveling and the training. What is that like?
Yeah. So, being in the guard, we have to do like more train up than what a normal active duty would do. So active duty, they'll go, and they'll just go. You know what I mean? And so we had to do a train up it was about 6 months. So we'd have like a month on, a couple weeks off, month on, couple weeks off here and there, and then we were doing that. And my personal experience, my wife was pregnant at that time, so I wasn't really there to support her and help her.
Mhm.
And the deployment is actually one I volunteered for and didn't tell her about until after she told me she was pregnant. So, but anyways, we went and we were still stateside. And I told them from day one, like, hey, my kid's coming in October, on October 7th. She's getting induced. They wouldn't send me home, even though we were still stateside, and they were sending leadership home. So that made me mad, because they were sending other people home to see their kid when it was born. So I got sent home the day after he was born. So it was amazing being able to spend time with him. But then he started having seizures. So I had to leave while he was still in the hospital, and they didn't have answers. And that really sucked. So my first few months when I was overseas really was tough, just because my mind was not there. I was thinking constantly about them. When am I going to get that phone call? You know what I mean? Like just waiting on bad news, constantly thinking the worst. And then eventually he got released from the hospital and it was good and he was healthy. And so we went to Kuwait, and Kuwait is chill, man. Like it's nothing like movies or anything like that. It's chill. You're chilling. Well, we weren't chilling, but most people are chilling. Our unit specifically was like, all right, we trained and we're going to keep training until they need us. And so we trained that 6 months just to go on this deployment and train some more. It's like, what are we really training for? You know what I mean? And so eventually we got sent to Saudi Arabia, and those were the worst living conditions I've ever been in, ever. But it was also the greatest experience because we were actually doing our job. We had a tower we'd sit at and we'd observe things, and we were just guarding oil fields. It was nothing crazy or anything, but that was the first time we actually did our job. So it was amazing being in a routine, and it made time fly by just like that. It was super hot, man. It was like 120 degrees normally. And the crazy thing about it is, like, at nighttime, because we work night shift, we'd come out and you literally feel like you're breathing underwater. Like it's such a weird concept to describe, but the way the humidity and everything works and the temperature drop, you feel like you're breathing underwater. You can't breathe for a second when you step out of your tent. It's really weird, but it was nice, man. It was really beautiful at nighttime. Every night you would see at least one or two shooting stars every single night. It was really nice. And we didn't really have any issues or anything go on. There was just one time where they said a drone was flying in from the north, and from the north from where we were, it was Iran. So me and my buddy Kyle, we just kind of sat there, and wasn't like an adrenaline rush or anything. We just kind of sat there and told our family, hey, this is going on right now. Just wanting you to know I love you type thing. We just kind of sat there and waited, and then it crashed like miles and miles away. So it never affected us or anything like that. But yeah, man, it was a good experience. I'm glad I went, but it really sucks that I missed the first year of my son's life. And seeing them when I came home just felt so weird. It was like the weirdest feeling ever because you see like my son, for example, I like couldn't. It was weird seeing him in person because I used to seeing him on these videos and I only saw him for a few days when he was first born. So seeing him in person, it was like this weird thing. It was like a simulation. It felt like almost. I was like, "You're real. This is crazy."
What's it like being a father? Although it's I'm pretty sure it's been
Oh man,
modified because of your service. But what is it like? What is it like?
it is literally the greatest thing ever. That's the reason why like I moved to first shift is so I can have more time with them because I enjoy third shift because I get paid more on third shift. And then I was going to do the academy so I could hit the road, but I don't even want to do the academy anymore because that's going to take even more time away from him. And I'm really trying to cement that bond because he's still a little apprehensive towards me, and it really, really hurts. But I mean, I understand I was gone for a year and we're still building that bond. And I was talking with therapists and with professionals online about how to strengthen our bond. And they all said I need to be consistent, a consistent force in his life, consistent, always there. I can't go away and then come back because he, even as a kid, like a baby, they still pick up on that stuff. But it's the craziest thing ever, man. It's amazing. I love it so much. There's nothing I want more. Like I want to have more kids. It's honestly the best thing, man.
That's amazing. I definitely want to have kids one day as well. I have none right now, but marriage, family, that's definitely what I want.
Yeah.
Broadening, taking and expanding out the topic of, fatherhood and family and all of that. I contend, and I guess I can assume you probably do as well, that family, the nuclear family, is extremely important.
Oh, absolutely.
Particularly in any community, really. But in the context of the Black community, I think it's extremely important. And I think it's the single greatest issue that we face as a community.
Yes.
With estimates being 60 years ago, that Black families were 25% single parent, single parent households, and now that has jumped to 73 to 75%. And we see the carnage and the dysfunction, culture, and the breakdown in morale.
Yeah,
because of that, I think a lot of the things,
same thing.
I think a lot of things we see, it's not with this white supremacy, and now that I guess the thing is white rage. It's none of that. It's stronger nuclear families. Thomas Sowell has done extensive work in studying this, right? Why do you think it is we've gotten to this place where the nuclear family is being in the mainstream, right, demonized and looked down upon?
I think it's because it's easier for people to control something and that goes back to the crime, in my opinion, is because talking with a lot of the inmates, one thing they all usually have in common, not always, but usually 9 times out of 10, they didn't have a consistent father figure in their life. And it's like, to me, you're always going to look to replace that, whether it's somebody you see in a movie, somebody you hear on your radio. They're always looking for someone to replace that. And so a lot of times these guys end up listening to, and I'm not demonizing rap music by any means, but they end up listening to rap music and the same things that they talk about. They're like, I want to be just like him. I want to be just like him. Oh, he went to jail. That's cool. Oh, he got stripes for robbing this store, for doing this, for doing that. And it's like, that's what they want to do now. They don't want to impress their family or anything like that. Or maybe they do if their family's out running the streets as well, but they want stripes for their friends. They want stripes to show that they're the man. They're the man of the house. They can be the man of the house if they get their stripes. And so that's what they're channeling their energy towards, because without that father figure in the home, not only for the discipline, but they're going to seek that out regardless. And they're going to find it somewhere else with something. And a lot of times it's something illegal and something dangerous and deadly.
Yeah, totally. And I've seen it in my immediate, community, right?
Same here.
Most of the people I grew up, particularly boys, that did not have their father present. I am one who did not have my biological father present at all growing up. You see the adverse effects of it, right? In terms of temperament, how to relate to people, emotional state, all of that. And I think we do a disservice to Black people. You don't help Black people or any people really, but because, we scream at Black Lives Matter in this moment, you don't do any good for Black people ignoring what's really hurting them while focusing on something, that's like a one-off, right?
Yeah.
I want to play your video that went viral.
Okay.
And get your reaction to it, and then ask some follow-up stuff.
All right.
I understand you're angry. I understand you're upset. I'm devastated that we just lost this young lady in our backyard right here in Columbus, Ohio. It's absolutely devastating. This should have never happened. The root cause of all of this is right here, though. It's a lot closer than you think. The Black community's biggest threat is the Black community. We kill ourselves every day, and we don't do anything about it but point the finger at everybody else because we're too busy idolizing our skin color that it clouds our reality. We had a 15-year-old today get charged with murder of killing another 15-year-old. Having shootouts in the street in broad daylight. Where are y'all at? Why are your kids running around? Fathers, you need to get your babies. You need to hold your babies. When they're acting crazy, you need to talk to your babies. You need to see what's going on in their heart. What is making them behave this way? What are they watching on TV? What's on their phones? Why are they behaving this way? We can't allow this to continue. We're better than this. We're supposed to be raising young kings, young queens, but we're not. We're raising thugs and degenerates that are being killed off way too young, way too early. Get your house in order. Don't become another statistic.
I thought that was extremely powerful.
Thank you.
Last year, 2020, there was about 8,600 Black people killed through homicide. Most of the perpetrators were other Black people. It was estimated, and this is according to a report by the New York Post, and I just talked about this on my YouTube channel. About every hour last year, estimates say that a Black person was killed about every hour last year, and you see no outrage about it. Black Lives Matter is silent, and they're now yelling, screaming, defund the police. And you made a statement in that the biggest threat to the Black community is the Black community. Elaborate on that a little bit.
We are, and I think the biggest problem is accountability. And I say that all the time because that is the truth. We're not holding ourselves accountable. So we are our biggest threat because we're letting our kids run around, do whatever they want. And as adults, a lot of the adults are still acting like kids. And so these kids end up having kids, and you have kids raising kids who never learned how to be an adult. And there's no accountability in the community, it seems. And so the cycle just continues and it continues. And it doesn't help that they got Planned Parenthood in every single hood. So that's become normalized to them. Okay, we can have sex. We can get an abortion. It's just right down the street. It's fine. And that just, there's no value on family. There's no value on accountability. It's just, it's the wild, wild west. It literally is the wild, wild west out here.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is an immediate solution?
An immediate solution?
Yeah, because I know we talk about it, and we go on and we cite the statistics. What do you think is an immediate solution or a possible solution?
I think a possible solution would be, I thought about this a lot, and I thought volunteers going in and trying to mentor kids could help, but it's not going to work if you go there one time a month. You have to be a constant figure in that person's life for it to even be effective, because they're used to people walking out on them all the time. So if you're coming there once a month, or maybe you skip a month, you're coming once every other month, that's just not going to work. They need a constant positive role model in their lives. And maybe that's not necessarily mentoring them one-on-one. Maybe if there was a youth group that they all could go to on certain nights of the week, where they had a powerful speaker who could raise them up, I think that could really, really help. And I tried going to a Black church with my wife last year, and I know they're not all like this, but the guy, he was so divisive. It was crazy. It wasn't last year. It was like 3 years ago. My bad. It was like like a year after Trump got elected, and he was, oh man, he did not like Donald Trump at all. And he was like, that man don't love you. He's like, he don't love you because you're Black. And it was just very divisive. And I was like, is this what all of our kids are hearing in these churches? Is this why they're behaving the way they're behaving towards white people and towards Trump? And it's like, where's your education at? Do you know what he's actually done for us and what he's going to do for us? Like, do you realize you keep voting Democrat on every single ballot and everything stays the same, if not gets worse?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I'll never understand it either. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
Chicago, Democrat controlled for decades, and we look at it. Baltimore, same thing. Nearly every major city in the United States, the exact same thing. I want to lean into that just a little bit, because I'm a Christian. I go to church, and it's very hard. I won't say it's impossible, but it's very hard to find a church that may be predominantly Black. It doesn't matter to me what the demographics of the church is, more so what they're teaching. But to lean into the thought a little bit, it's very hard to find a predominantly Black church that's not in what I like to say is simply a marketing arm of liberalism.
Man, that's good. That's really good. Yeah.
It's extremely disheartening because you see how much of that is anti-biblical, right? If you're Christian, I hope at least you follow the Bible. And you follow the Bible, most of, if not all of the stuff that modern liberalism, maybe not what JFK and others stood for, but what modern liberalism stands for is anti-Bible. Comment on that a little bit more about what you spiritually, how have you been able to, you mentioned the connection of God and how your conservative values align with the Bible, and you saw that connection in your faith community. How have you been received? Have you noticed any difference? Like, what does that look like?
With what do you mean with my community? Like, how have I been received?
Yeah.
So I wear my stuff out when I go out, and people, they look at me funny or whatever. Like at the gym one time, this guy, I have friends that work at the gym that I go to, and he sent me a text. He was like, "Hey, were you at the gym today with a big Trump flag?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" No. And it was all over a patch I have on my bag that says Trump on it. So people are like, nobody's ever said anything to me personally, but like family members don't talk to me like they used to. I had a cousin that went crazy on my Facebook. She posted a whole bunch of stuff. She was really, really mad at me for something I posted. I said the police don't need retraining, your children do. And I believe that everybody should have continuous training, but that was just one of those bold statements I like to put out there to get people thinking, But she got mad. She was real mad. So, but it also has encouraged other people to speak up. Like I got a couple Black friends that I didn't know were conservative, and now I know they are. And they're like, "Man, I wish I could speak up like you." I'm like, "You can. Don't be afraid. We need more people to do that." Yeah. So it's good and bad.
Why do you think that self-censorship is there? Because I get it all the time, right? I have friends who are conservative, friends that agree with everything I say, which is rare. Anybody ever agrees with anything anybody says, but they agree with most of what I say, but they're never publicly, of course, and I never put I'll never put it out there. But why do you think it's that self-censorship? Go ahead.
I think it's because like doxing is a thing now. People are so quick to cancel you, but and I feel like that's a chain people have on them. Once you break free of that and you don't care anymore, it's hard not to care though, because if you work a job and you're afraid you might get fired, but you got to be very careful about the way you say things and the way you word things. And as much as I've said and everything, and crazy as I've went and aggressive as I've went on my social media, I haven't broken any rules, mainly because I don't do anything in my uniform and stuff like that. But I think really people are afraid of being canceled, and they want to be accepted. They want to be loved. They're afraid of somebody viewing them as something, and they're not. I honestly think it's them not being true to themselves, because if you were true to yourself, you wouldn't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. I don't mean you got to scream it from the mountaintops, but I mean, don't be afraid, man.
Well, I think the tide is turning a little bit. The last election, regardless of what you think of the validity of it, Trump, I believe, got 20% of about average on about 20% of the black male vote, which is extremely phenomenal. Republican hasn't gotten that, I think, in 60 odd plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the tide is turning. Maybe it was just a one off and it was just because it was Trump, but I think it's deeper than that. I inadvertently had a conversation with the former chairman of the GOP, Michael Steele.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
in my opinion, and I guess I'll say this, I think he's, a Republican in name only, a rhino. But
Rhino.
I had a conversation with him, and what he fails to understand, and he's black, obviously, what he fails to understand is that it's deeper than, for many people, it's deeper than Republican or Democrat, and a bit deeper than just Donald Trump. It's about a populism of a group of people coming together and saying, you know what, we've been screwed over by the system for many years, right? Republican and Democrats, and we want these things, right? We want, to end the wars. We want to bring our troops home, and all these things that traditionally Republicans either didn't say anything about or they were against, right? And you see kind of Trump came along. He was like in many ways, a hybrid of classical conservatism and classical liberalism. And he came
Yeah.
along and said, hey, these are the things. I want to bring the troops home, right? As of now, I believe, as it still stands, on September 11th, they're coming out of Afghanistan. Thanks, really, to Trump, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So, what have you seen in terms of this thinking? Have you seen any, I guess you could say, converts or people who say, you know what, I saw it this way, but because of you, I see it differently?
Yeah, my cousin, he's not very educated. One of my cousins, he's not very educated. And that's fine with me. I don't care about that. You know what I mean? It's just something he's not interested in, politics. But he posts a lot of BLM stuff. And one time he was trying to come on my thing. And I was like, hey, man, I'm not going to go back and forth with you in public, but we can talk on the phone or something if you want to, or we can message each other. So we talked. And some of his viewpoints did change a little bit. He was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. But one time we were, this is when we were in Saudi Arabia. This is when BLM was going crazy over the summer. And one of my boys, black dude, BLM dude, also not someone who does his research on things type dude. He was like, why don't you like Black Lives Matter? Why are you always talking about Black Lives Matter and hating on them and all that? And I was like, bro, they're out there rioting and protesting right now for somebody that was breaking the law. But they didn't say anything about the 4-year-old girl that just got shot at McDonald's. And so that was just like, and he was like,
Chicago.
He was like, that 4-year-old girl got shot. What are you talking about? And I was like, see, you don't even know about it because everybody's so polarized with this message. Yeah. They're not focusing on things that are happening in our own community by our own people. And that got his gears turning a little bit. And he was kind of salty at me after that because I said it in front of everybody, but I don't care.
I think more directly, and that's true. Literally, I live in Chicago. I'm in Chicago now. I'll be in DC in the fall, but born and raised in Chicago. And I literally rode past the scene of that. The
one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know what happened until I got home and watched the news. But I think even more succinctly about BLM, I think everybody in their right mind, agrees in 2021, Black Lives Matter. Black people are valuable. It's not 30, 40, 60, 70 years ago where there were literal scientists coming up with theories of how Black people weren't human, right? It's
right.
not that anymore.
Yes.
So, and to think it's that, or to think it's even close to that, you probably are misinformed or not informed at all. But more directly, and this was at the beginning of the George Floyd summer of riots, right? Which we now forget happened because everything's about January 6th. But
yeah,
they on their website on Black Lives Matter Inc. Incorporated, their website, the nonprofit, right? They literally, before they took it down after they got the backlash, they literally talked about and it's archived. You can find it on the website on online archives, but they took it down because they know it's not popular and they know it's stupid. But they literally said one of our goals is to deconstruct the Western prescribed nuclear family.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I remember that last year.
And that alone, I don't care if everything else was right about the organization. That alone is nonsense to me. And it's really anti-black and anti any common sense. I think if more people knew that, they'd probably take it out of the Instagram bio. But where do you foresee us going as a country, as a culture, as a people in the future? You think I'm a pessimist for most of the time? I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. But what do you think?
Yeah, I want to have high hopes, but I don't, because nothing has shown me that anything's going to change. And I think it all goes back to the accountability and the idolizations that we have, and people idolize the wrong things. And as long as you have MSM controlling everything, as long as liberals are pulling strings for literally everything in the entire world now, this is just going to continue. I don't think it's going to end. I think we're still going to have rational, insane people, normal, everyday Americans, but the stuff you see on the TV, the stuff you see with the kids running the streets, until they start thinking for themselves, start doing research and educating and want something different for themselves, it's just going to keep happening, and it'll probably get worse.
What's next for you? What is the future? You said you want more kids. What does the future hold for you?
Yeah, we're actually trying to adopt right now, try to add to our family. We want to adopt before we have another biological one. This is kind of our way of helping, being pro-life and everything. This is us doing something about it, and it'd be amazing to be able to change somebody's life in the community. So I just did my fingerprint and background check today, actually. So we have a fire inspection, and then that's it. And then we're waiting on our first placement. So doing that, and then I moved to first shift, so working first shift now, so I can have more time with the family. Just going to the gym. I want to do a competition next year, bodybuilding. And then I want to start putting more content out, man, with this political stuff. So I'm trying to upgrade a little bit of gear in here. That way I can start doing some stuff like this. Yeah.
Why no music?
So I hit up a lot of producers in the area, right? And I've been to a few different studios. And the way they produce the stuff, it just doesn't sound like industry quality to me. And there are other people, but they're charging an arm and a leg, and it's like, man, do I really want to pay $300 for this when this $300 can get me more groceries? It can get, what I'm saying, get this and get that. So it's kind of like something I'm balancing right now. I do want to save up for it and do it, but it's like, because I was doing it on my own down here in my basement, but it's like, it doesn't sound good. I need professional. I don't want to put stuff out that's not professional. So yeah.
What is
just saving money, I guess.
Definitely. That's always a good thing to do. What is I guess I'll ask it. What are your hopes, I guess I could say? What are your hopes for 2022?
Hopes for 2022. I hope that the election fraud, I hope that that's exposed. I hope that people will be able to start seeing about the whole, like the mail-in ballots and everything like that. And didn't those Arizona results, did that come back yet? Was that supposed to be today, or are they delaying it?
I think the Arizona audit, they wrapped it up earlier this week or last week, and I don't know if they've given out an official report. So
yeah, I just think that with all the opposition they've had towards it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think with all the opposition that's been had about it, if you really did rant an election like you said you ran, you shouldn't be worried about it. You should be welcoming it, Like for athletes, it's like, you don't do steroids. Okay, welcome them to test you. You should be welcome to do it so you can prove everybody wrong. I don't understand that. So that was a big red flag in my brain. And then going to bed, of course, at 11 p.m. Oh yeah, Trump's winning. Oh yeah. And then he won Ohio. It was like, oh, he definitely won now. Waking up, all these ballots magically appearing. I was like, brother, what's going on here? I was like, what are we doing?
I got off of work. I was listening, I was trying to monitor the election and the poll closings and all of that as I was at work. But I got home, rushed home, turned on TV, and I said, oh, okay, this is in the bag.
Yeah.
And I had to go to. I went to bed to get up the next day for work, and it's a complete different story. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yep.
So, but the thing, this probably get struck by YouTube, but the
I
thing
didn't even
about
think of that.
the thing about it is, now we had this New York City mayor election, right?
I seen that. Yeah.
Complete chaos because they're trying this ranked choice voting, which I don't really understand. It's complicated. I think Tucker Carlson tried to explain it last night, and I still didn't understand it. But you have this thing in New York City where they're doing this ranked choice voting and something. I think you put your top 5 candidates and you list them in order or whatever. My question is, whatever happened to you vote for one time for one person and you tally the votes, whoever gets the most votes win? Whatever happened to that?
Right.
But, all these last minute changes, and I think it's New York's first time using that voting system. Eric Adams, who's a black guy, liberal, not some crazy, of what they like to say, some crazy right winger.
Right.
He asked a legitimate question. There's some discrepancies here. This doesn't make sense. Found out that there's 135,000 mock ballots, which is just basically fake votes. So they disqualified those, the New York City's Board of Elections. And then they're now tallying. He still has a slim lead. And they're still tallying and still trying to figure out who won that race and the vote. And that ended like a week ago, almost a week ago. It's quite crazy that you see, even in a local election, discrepancies. A Democrat coming out, everybody in mainstream media was like, oh, he's talking like Trump. They didn't go try to investigate. They didn't go try to get facts. And then the fact came out, 135 duplicate ballots. The Board of Elections admitted that. And then you have so-called journalists looking stupid, right?
Yeah.
Then go back to 2016. Every hyper liberal Democrat was like, Russia stole the election, blah 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 blah. If we forget, we actually don't want to forget that Hillary attempted to challenge the election. Let's not forget that she didn't just walk away quietly. Even after she gave her concession speech, she attempted to challenge the election. And no one, at least in the mainstream media, called her a threat to democracy or any of that.
No, they were saying like, here's how she can still win. And it's like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And so we go from 2016 Democrats saying our elections are unsafe and not secure, and we can't trust our election system, and the Russians been Russians
Oh yeah,
for the last 5 years. And now they're saying we have the most safe and secure elections in the world, and blah 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 blah. And it's quite infuriating. And I think it causes people to not trust the system. So I definitely hope some of the same things for 2022, as it concerns, elections and where we go politically and all of that. What's your take on this General
Milley?
Yeah.
I think he's I think once you become a certain rank in the military, you turn into a politician, So I think he is another politician, and this is his crowd that he's pandering to, and it sucks because this is also the same crowd that is not going to be an effective war fighting crowd. And I think really what it causes is more division, because in the military, you don't think anything about the color of the guy next to you. You just want to make sure that he can load his gun and he can shoot if something hits the fan. You got guys listening to country music in one corner, you got guys listening to rap, you got guys listening to rock, and you're all boys. Like everybody from my platoon, all from different walks of life. I could hang out with any of them. I could go to any of their houses any day of the week, and we'd be just like this. And then with the CRT that they're trying to do now, talking about white rage, it's awkward. It's really awkward. And it's not like a good awkward that you need to talk about. It's just causing division when there doesn't need to be any, because we are a team. We're cohesive. We work together. And if we want to talk about personal issues or something like that, we'll discuss that amongst ourselves. We don't need you to give a PowerPoint on what you think is right. That's freaking stupid. Yeah. I don't get that, man.
I've often heard, older people talk about, war, because my grandmother, she she lived to be 99, and she lived through literally World War One, World War Two. She lived through the Cold War. She lived through all civil rights movement. She was two generations
Mm,
from actual slavery, right? She saw Jim Crow. She was born and raised in Alabama. She saw Jim Crow firsthand. Um, One
mm,
distinct story she tells me, or she's talked about, is how she was traveling from the south to the north, and she was on the bus, and then how the bus stops and you take a rest stop, go to the bathroom, whatever. And she, as a black woman, was looking for the then known as colored bathroom, and
yeah.
she hadn't known, or she didn't get the news that they had just desegregated. She
Oh,
didn't know.
wow. Oh
And
my
so,
goodness.
and it was when she first told me that story, I was like, wow, that reality, I can't even relate to it. Like,
You can't even know.
I can't even
Wow.
conceptualize looking for a bathroom, not for my particular gender, but for my particular
Yeah.
race. I can't even conceptualize that. Um, but uh, she would talk about, and others would talk about, how when you go to war, when you're in foreign countries, well, number one, many of them only see one thing, that American flag. Number two, when bullets are flying and tanks and all that stuff, the violence of war, you're not thinking about white rage and 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 none of that.
Yep.
You're thinking about, number one, surviving this, hopefully. Number two,
Right.
winning this battle or whatever, and coming home to your family and protecting and defending your country. Right? Yeah, that's all you're thinking
Hmm.
about. That's all going
Yeah.
through your head. Um, and I think now the military, we would hope, we thought at least, that the military was was apolitical in the sense that, of course, each individual person has their own political beliefs, but as a
Hmm.
cohesive unit, we do not stand on the side of one political party or one politician.
Yeah.
Right? It used to be that the military, particularly those in the higher ranks and cabinet members, served at the pleasure of the president regardless of party, didn't care. Right? Now
Hmm.
that's changing. It seems to be changing. Right?
Oh, it definitely is.
Never disparaging military, those that aren't in, like Mark Milley. I think Tucker called them, what did Tucker call him? A pig, right? Um, uh, you could say that's aggressive and disrespectful to those who serve, but but I think, as you mentioned, it's causing more division than unity.
Yeah. It's
Um,
unnecessary.
this obsession with race, I don't
Oh,
understand it.
no.
It drives me nuts, right?
Yeah.
No longer is the goal to be like what we used to call a post-racial society, right? Where we
Yeah.
see, like Martin Luther King said, we judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, right? No longer are we striving to be that, but we're going the opposite way, right? White rage, which is the new thing, right? And white supremacy and all this stuff. So it drives me crazy. Ending on a more positive note, um, you building your family. I love that. Uh, I've seen pictures of you and your family. I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, what is it, if you could talk to every black? I don't want to signal it out, but particularly since we've been talking in this
Hmm.
vein, if you could talk to every man, but particularly every black man in the country, and you could give them a message, what would you say?
I would say you need to be home for dinner with your son, with your wife. You need to talk to them about what is right and what is wrong. And if you don't know what's right and wrong, you need to find that in the Bible. And respect and accountability goes a long, long way. You won't be
Mhm.
able to raise your son and live a prosperous life without those two things. You need respect and you need accountability. He needs to know when he's wrong. He needs to know when he's right. And when he's acting out, you need to figure out what's going on and what could be causing that. You can't just ignore it and hope it just goes away. It's something you have to figure out and correct.
Got you. I think that's amazing. Thank you for your time. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
talking to me. Um, this was a very good conversation. I have never been to Ohio. I was supposed to go, I think, during the middle of the pandemic, but obviously they got canceled. But I plan on going to Ohio soon. I think my friend lives in Cleveland. I think it's Cleveland.
Okay.
Um, But again, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, man. When you come to Ohio, hit me up.
I
We'd have
definitely
to hang out, man. That'd be cool.
definitely
We
will.
could do one of these in person.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Love what you're doing. Love what you stand for. Always good to see a man standing by his family. That's I think the most powerful thing in the world. So thank you for talking to me.
Amen. Thanks, man. It was good.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Changing the Narrative with me, your host, Jay Shakur. You can do me, the show, the podcast, the YouTube channel a big favor by going to jayshakurmedia.com, clicking podcast. It'll take you to a page where you'll see a button that says support and support. You can support the channel. You can support what I'm doing, attempting to build independent media, an independent platform that seeks to inform people, inspire people in defense of faith, family, and freedom. Again, thank you for listening to this edition of Changing the Narrative. I hope you learned something. Hope something was said that was helpful. Share this episode, share this podcast, share the content with someone. If something spoke to you, tweet about it. Tell me. Reach out. You can email me if you want to be on the show, or if you have something to say or response or whatever, you can email me at J1Shakur. That's JayJuan Shakur, like Tupac, SHAKUR @gmail.com. Again, that's J1Shakur @gmail.com. JayShakurMedia.com is where you can go to support the podcast and support the channel. Anything you do, likes, retweets, reshares, financial donation, whatever you do, is needed and it is appreciated. Thank you. Everything we do, everything I do, is in defense of faith, family, and freedom. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in.
You don't become what you want, because so much of wanting is about living in the space of what you don't have.
I believe that we all share this common desire. We all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted. Everything we do in some way considers that fact.
You can't bring life if you don't have vision. You don't build your character because, letting go of your ego.
Thank you for listening.